So I'm back here. It's not morning, but it's, you know, not too far into the afternoon. The tanks are in place, and the objective today is to get the weeping tile in. So a solid weeping tile is going to connect there, run it down on a slope to the tanks here. I'm going to do it with a shovel. I made sure and dug out the area a little bit so I could properly curve the weeping tile into the tank. I got the tanks in without dropping a whole lot of sand in there. That's cool. And I didn't break it too much. Broke it a little bit there, but not too bad. Yeah, so should be good. I'm not gonna install the tanks completely, so I'm just gonna get the weeping tile into the tank. In the event that it rains really hard, then the water has somewhere to go from under the house into the tank here, and then I can pump it out from the tank. The reason I'm focusing on the weeping tile now is because I'm gonna start on the interior framing, and I want to make sure the interior of the house stays dry, because if it rains super hard and the weeping tile, it wasn't connected to anything, it was sealed off, so it just fills up with water. And then because I have that secondary system in the house, and there's no power in the house yet, but it still has the tank, so the water still comes up into the basement, and then it just gets wet in there. So I want to maintain moisture level. So weeping tile is going to run into this tank, and then probably about 2 feet down from the top from this tank, it's going to run into this tank. And then this tank will have a pump out in it, so there'd be a pump in this tank, and then there'd be a line coming out of this tank that you can hook to a garden hose, and then there'd be a overflow drain on this tank, so it'd be somewhere about right here, and that'll be the vent for both tanks. Because if you're bringing water into the tank, the air from the tank has to go somewhere, and if these tanks are buried, you need that air needs to escape somewhere. So this tank will pump out into this one. It'll also be connected at a little bit higher than the drain height on this one. So when this one gets full, it's not gonna flow into this one and like backfill that one, then it'll pump into this one, and you know, a weird cycle going on. So the vent for this one will tie into this one, and the overflow for this one will be a little bit lower than the vent, and then that'll overflow onto the road. So yeah, so from that one it pumps to this one, from this one it overflows onto the road, and if you need fresh water, you can turn the pump on and drain it right down. So that's the plan anyway. Later on also there'll be, so the eaves trough will have a pipe. Well, eaves trough will come down on the side of the house, go into a pipe in the ground, and that pipe will feed into this tank. So it'll be coming off of that corner, coming off of that corner, and well, probably all four corners. So I'll have to do some plumbing there, and that'll go into this tank here before it exits onto the road. And then this tank should always be full of water if needed. That's the plan anyway. Feels really good going to get these parts I bought so long ago now. Aha. So there's weeping tile connectors. Really only need two. Here's a diverter. If I wanted to put in if you want to put in a window box, you can use something like that. Like say there's a window there. This isn't quite the right one, but this would work. So say I wanted to build up the dirt around the house higher, like say halfway on the window, then I put something like that. So the weeping tile is under the ground about 3-4 feet there. So you cut the weeping tile, put in that connector, run a piece of weeping tile up with a drain. There's a special piece that sits on the bottom of the window box. And then your weeping tile goes there, and then all the water that goes into that window well will go down into your weeping tile and then get pumped out. So you could use something like that, or you could just a straight T connection. You know, it doesn't have to be like that. This is for like if it's in the ground. You have one, so this one would be for like in the corner there. So you have one coming in this way and then goes out, and then you have the other one coming in that way. So this one would sit just right on the corner. This is if I wanted to do 2 into 1, but I think I'm gonna do 2 right to the tank. Just a little bit better that way, easier, harder for it to collapse if you got 2 pipes going to the tank. So here's the weed control fabric that'll keep the sediment out and let the water go through. I'll put that on the little bit of my tie-in there. My next step is to make sure I got a nice slope running down here. So I'm going to work on that. I'm going to get a 10-foot 2x6. Just got to make sure these aren't pointed up. Yeah, they're still angled up a little bit. Okay, so I'll cut this one off here, cut that one off there, and then I'll put in my connectors, and then I'll go from there. See, this one would go into here like this, but I'd have to dig probably another 2 feet back under the ground there, so I don't want to do that. And having 2 coming out is best. I did a nice gradual bend in this, so it's not gonna kink off too much. You know, like I didn't just like bend it at a 90 to get it out of the corner. I did a nice gradual bend to it, so I'm already set up to do the 2 pipes. So I'm going to continue with that. But if you wanted to do 2 into 1, you throw something like that in the corner and it connects into there, and then that one connects into there. And there's that one. So I'll wrap it with the landscaping material. I'll go past the joint to where the solid pipe is here, and I'll wrap it with the vapor barrier tape just to seal off that end and hold it tight, at least until the dirt's there. The tape isn't going to hold it. It's just to squish it all together so you're not getting any sediment coming back up the end. You should never work in a trench alone in the middle of nowhere like I am now. But if you notice, I didn't go in the deep trench where those tanks were. Even though it was dark, I didn't once ever set foot in the lowest part there, even though it would have been convenient. Like when I had to get the strap off of that big tank, I didn't go 10 feet into the ground and take the strap off. I stayed in the bucket of the machine suspended, and then held onto the bucket and undid the strap, which isn't the safest either, but it's a lot better than going down to the bottom of the trench, because if it ever collapsed, I'd be stuck down there, you know. So it's not a good thing to work in a trench. It should have shoring, but this is just a private jobber, so not worried about the shoring, because very low funds, and compared to a commercial job where you have to do everything the right way because people got to go home, and you don't want to be a company responsible for you know, getting people hurt or, you know, heaven forbid them dying. So you got to do everything correctly with shoring and do it as safe as possible to the standard of CSA or OSHA or, you know, what have you. So, but this is just me here working on my house, so doesn't need it. And so I'm standing here right now, and the edge of the trench is, you know, like about belly height. You know, it's not very high. So even if it collapses there, just my foot will get stuck, so I'm not too worried. So I got to the point where it's safe to work in here, you know, and that's why I well, not temporary, that's why I filled it in to a certain height. I didn't fill it in all the way, and that's so I could just stand in here and work in here, because all my plumbing is up higher anyway, so I don't have to do anything lower down. So yeah, don't go in a trench if it's really deep. Okay, so I got about a 2-inch slope there, 2-3-inch slope. And then from there to the tank, roughly, yeah, a 4-inch slope. So a 2-3-inch slope all the way to here, and then from here to the tank, it's about a 4-inch slope, 3-4-inch slope. So that's good. Okay. So put one pipe there and one pipe there. So I'll line up where my weeping tile is going. I'll drill a hole right in the center of it, and then I'll get a ladder, and then I'm going to crawl inside the culvert and go with my grinder and grind a big circle in there, and then take the piece out and shove the weeping tile in, caulk it around outside, caulk it around on the inside, and then it's in there. That's half of an extension ladder. I just pulled them apart, so that should fit in the hole nicely. Aha. Well, I'll put one here anyway. That looks about half. Okay, so I don't know what's gonna happen when I start grinding on this thing. Is it gonna release a whole bunch of fumes or not? So if I go in there and I start grinding and it's too stinky, I'm not gonna stay in there. I'll have to do it from the outside. Ah, freaking horsefly. Gotta put my shirt back on before I get bit here. Thinks I'm a horse. Little bastard thinks I'm a horse. Ah. There you go, there's one. There we go, there's the other one. Crap, the ones I got are only for metal, but they should work. If it adheres to wood, it'll adhere to plastic. Okay, so those are caulked all the way around. I don't want to go and squish it with my finger because I don't have a rag here, and then I get that full of sand, and then that turns into a really nasty mess that gets everywhere. So I'm just gonna leave it looking messy like that, and then cover it with sand. So I'll go on the inside and clean that up there and cut them off a little bit shorter. And okay, so I got it all caulked on the inside. Not pretty, but it's sealed. Okay, now I'm just gonna get out of the hole. So next step, wrap those weeping towel with the fabric material and fill it up full of gravel. Put some gravel there, tape it, and then cover it back up. And then when I get it covered a little bit with sand, I gotta put this 1 or 2 inch water line. That's the pump out from underneath the floor. So that water line is gonna go into the large tank there. So that'll come around the outside here and then go into the large tank. So I'm putting the gravel in between the weeping tile, and that's because the gravel doesn't compress. So say I put sand in there and then sand all around, and then you go you know, it settles down over time, and because you got two pipes side by side, that's an area that can squish. So you don't want to have your two weeping tile right together, because then they could squish down. So you want them separated a little bit, and then put the something in between that's not going to compact. So the gravel in the center is to help carry some of the load of the ground compacting on it. May or may not work, but I think that's a good idea. So I'm going to hand shovel it and cover it up nice, and then I'll go get the grade all and cover everything up. That's the plan anyway. Okay, I got the gravel in between the weeping tiles to keep them from collapsing in the event of lots of pressure. And now I'm just going to cover it up, and then I'm going to build it up high enough I can run that water line over a top, and then around to the bigger tank there, and then I can just cover everything up, and then I'm done for tonight, and then back in the morning tomorrow. Okay, I got it all covered up. I'm ready to run the water line around there. This line is pretty old already, but they last a long time. They have like a rubber coating on the outside. If you go to the Home Depot or something and you grab one of these, they're all rubbery on the inside and the outside. So it's like a rubber coating on a harder plastic core. And this one doesn't really have its rubberiness anymore on the outside, but it's still good. It'll hold pressure from the you know, 1.5 horsepower pump used to pump out the weeping tile basin, or the weeping tile sump. What I don't want to do is have this directly over the weeping tile, and I don't want it pumping out into the same tank as a weeping tile. If I turn the pump on, I want it to pump out into the fresh water tank. But the problem is, if I attach this and have it pumping into the fresh water tank, and the level of the water in the fresh water tank is all the way up to the top, it's going to be higher than the basement. So I need a one-way valve on this to keep the water from going back into the weeping tile system. So yeah, it's probably best that this one pumps into the weeping tile tank. I suppose it's fine running over top of the weeping tile. It's gonna have insulation on top of it anyway. I'm gonna blanket it with foam insulation before I fill it back in. So yeah, I'll cut it off there. I'll cut another hole, put it in, and this one will be part of that tank also. Yeah, in the event that there's a failure in the one-way valve, I don't want all that storage water from the fresh water tank to go back into the sump basin when the pump shuts off. The pump will come on, and then it'll shut off, it'll fill up, pump will come on, it'll shut off, it'll fill back up till the pump craps out, and then I get a flooded basement. So yeah, this one's going to pump out into that tank, and the water level in this one is always going to be low. This one will have a pump in the tank with a float switch on it, so when the water level gets to a certain high, it'll pump out the water, and it'll pump it into the larger storage tank, and that tank will always be full. This one will always be empty. So yeah, it's best it runs. Okay, so I got the line attached to the tank there. I just gotta add a little bit more fill underneath it, but it's probably okay. I could just dump sand on it like that. Next step, I shovel a little bit more sand on here, and then I'm gonna put foam insulation. So it'll get about, I don't know, 2 foot wide foam insulation. So I'm gonna pack up, and that's it for tonight. So I got here late and I didn't get a lot done, and I gotta get into town. I gotta pick up some things for the wife, or I gotta pick up a thing for the wife, and then have some dinner and go to bed and try to get up early again. Okay, take care.